today we're talking about anticipatory grief. What is anticipatory grief? It is grieving your loved one or whoever it is that you're caring for before they're actually gone. And I mean, even before they're actively passing away, anticipatory grief comes really long before active dying comes along. So that's what we're talking about today. My name is Stephanie. I am here to empower and equip you to care well for yourselves and for your loved ones. That's my goal here today. Today, like we do every other week, I want to specifically talk to the caregiver because you play such an important role in this. And it can also often be so isolating. I want you to know that you're not alone. So today, I want to talk about anticipatory grief and really just want to make sure that you know that it is a thing. Again, anticipatory grief doesn't mean necessarily when someone is like, they've entered hospice and we know like death is right around the corner, like this is very, very close and we're working through that. Anticipatory death grief could be like, let's say mom and dad are super, super independent and they're very involved grandparents and they come to all of the games and they do all of the things. And then, I don't know, let's say mom has a stroke or dad has a heart attack. It could be one way or the other, one of them has some terrible, medical event that changes the entire trajectory of their lives. And now all of a sudden, it's not like, okay, mom and dad come to, our kid's baseball game. It's their lives revolve around all the appointments that they have to get to, or if there was a stroke, like their rehab appointments, or their new diet that they have to follow, or it's like these everyday tasks and now completely consume their time. And you've lost something. My friend, you have lost something. Or maybe we're completely independent and we're traveling all over the place and then there was a tragic accident. Maybe one of them made that through that tragic accident and one of them didn't, and somehow, even though they were completely both independent beforehand, now the one needs help with everything. Like they were totally fine on their own, and now what? Now you have to help with finances and with things around the house. Maybe they can even live by themselves without the other one. That's a loss. It's a huge loss. And that loss has a term. It has a name. And that name is anticipatory grief. So you've lost a lot when you're anticipating this. You've lost stability. You've lost structure. You've lost, their abilities, their cognition. You're losing time. You're losing very, very sweet time. They're losing independence. And that means you're losing some independence. Hope. You've lost some hope. You've lost sleep. You've probably lost money. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that, but it's practicality, isn't it? I know it's frustrating when it can be. It can be. And hope, if I can just touch on that again. It's hard because people so often want to be like, oh, I'm going to be positive through this. And I'm not. I'm all for choosing an attitude of gratitude. I'm for, trying to find the bright side of things. This is fine and good. But it's okay that you've lost, and it's okay to acknowledge that too. I think it's not even just okay. I think it's important. I think it's important, and I think it's imperative. I think it's imperative because this is a thing. It's not made up. It's for real. It's well documented. It's out there. So, and the thing is by not acknowledging it, acting like, oh, but mom's still alive, and so everything is okay, and we're just gonna do this, and not acknowledging that there was a loss had. Often, this is where things like burnout come from, where anger comes from, where resentment comes from. This is where depression comes from, and isolation, and forgetfulness. All those things, those are like warning signs They're warning signs to you. They're your body's way of trying to tell you, like, you're grieving. You're grieving. And you need to give yourself the time and the space to allow that grief to happen. You know, oftentimes when there's an event like this, like mom had a stroke, dad had a heart attack, or there was this accident, it becomes like this ACBC moment in our lives, right? It's like this was this turning point that we experienced in life. And I think, for good reason, and that reason is grief. So it requires your acknowledgement, and it requires your care. It requires your time. It requires your care. So I want to encourage you in that today. First off, just to acknowledge that it's real. Acknowledge that anticipatory grief is a thing. It's a thing. You know, often being able to name an emotion, it's good for our nervous system. It is a good thing to give it a name. It's like your brain somehow knows where to file all the things that come along with it. So acknowledge that you are experiencing this anticipatory grief. Allow yourself that. And then acknowledge your losses. Like, what is it that you have lost? Have you lost time? Were you hoping for, some vacation down the road that's never going to happen now? Were you hoping for some kind of reconciliation that it's not going to happen now because mom can't even communicate the way that she used to? Yeah. Is it hope? Is it stability? Is it just that? Not just that, because this is for real. Like, you totally had your independence. They were totally independent before, and now they're completely reliant on you. And so you've lost that. That's a loss. So acknowledge that it's a thing and name your losses, okay? Find community, find support. Often if mom and dad or whoever it is has ended up in a nursing home or a rehab facility or assisted living or a memory care unit, something like that, there are often support groups offered by those facilities. So if you haven't found them advertised, call the director, call marketing. They have things available for you. Those are great places to start. Even if you're the only one who shows up, that's okay, because there'll be somebody there to facilitate it, and there will be a wealth of knowledge and support for you. So you can check those out. If it's a specific disease that your loved one is battling, there are a lot of times disease-specific support groups. And if you can't find one locally, they are online, which I know might not be super comfortable for everyone, but might be worth checking out if you're struggling with that. It can even be a really great place to find support with disease-specific complications and issues. So check those out. And then, I want to offer too that I have a Facebook group called Caring Moments, and it's just getting started, but it's really where I'm hoping that people will be able to find, like, well, I'm really not by myself, and I have a question, or I'm struggling with this, so that you know that there's a community there surrounding you, and you're not alone. Because, I said earlier, isolation can be this, could be a warning sign that you are grieving, but then there's also the reality that caregiving in and of itself is isolating, because this person is requiring your time, and so you don't have as much time to, reach out like you had. So find community, find support. And of course, the last thing is to take care of yourself. And of course, I'm going to be saying that because it's just one of those things. It's a hill that I am willing to die on. You need to care for yourself. So acknowledge that this is a thing. Acknowledge your loss. Find support and take care of yourself. Your loved one who you are now caring for and grieving the loss of what was and what never will be, they need a lot from you. And in order to provide that a lot to them, you need to take care of yourself first. So make sure that you're finding the time to do that. In the weeks to follow, we'll be talking about some ways to do that. Self-care is definitely, thankfully, very... Oh, sorry about my dog. Self-care is, it's everywhere right now. I'm grateful for that. In a lot of ways, it doesn't take much of a Google search to find out, how to care well for yourself. So look into ways to do that if you need them. And I think that's it for this week. So blessings to you. Oh, if you find this helpful, please like, please subscribe, please share it. It's helpful to me. It's not just helpful to me, it's helpful to the people who need it, so we can make sure that they see it. So blessings to you. Hope you have a beautiful week. Take good care of yourselves.